It is the Flow Friday sports show here on your Colour of Country Life, Flow FM. And it's time to check in with Ben Hooper. He plays for Border Down Centenara in the Mallee Football League. And there's plenty going on. Ben, we've got some official news as well. We spoke about this a couple of weeks ago to begin what seems like a chain reaction, having spoken with Nicole McMahon from Lamoureux Netball, where there was initially a bit of an inkling in the air that this might all sort of happen, but we now have some official news. So I'll go straight to you for your reaction, Ben Hooper. How do you feel about it all?
Yeah, good afternoon, Ellis. Well, it's a frustrating position, I guess, I speak to you from today. It's with sadness that I would express on behalf of a lot of the clubs from the Mallee Footy League, that footy and netball, because it's a full community competition. And it's a sad and frustrating point that we now find that formally the Mallee Football League won't exist in 2023.
So let's walk this back. Tell us from the very beginning of when people were starting to sniff out that this might go this way and we weren't going to have a Mallee League in 2023. What actually sort of started this or set this chain reaction off? Because I know that you followed it closely from the very beginning.
Yeah, for sure. I guess back in May, June last year, there was the start of a conversation around some sort of strategy or formalising each club's position on sustainability moving forward to try and give a bit of longevity around the competition, the collective competition, apart from rocking up each year and just saying we're good to go. Some clubs needed some more security than just that, because we all knew that from year to year clubs struggle, but there's been a shift in the dynamic of country community towns in general, and that is that clubs used to cycle. There used to be they cycle around in terms of a collective birth rate in a certain year, and then they'd be strong for a period of time, and then they'd dwindle off. And what we'd realised was that these were no longer cycles; they'd become trends, particularly in our region. And we had a really high participation rate in terms of kids and adults that were already playing both footy and netball, and probably wasn't much more we can leverage out of that. And there needed to be a bit more emphasis put into how we go about making sure that it was here for the long term, for each individual constituent. And in that, who knows what that would have looked like if we actually bothered to dig into the conversation. It might have been a slow transition back to 16 players in the footy each team, and then maybe in 2024 or 5 we collectively agreed that we might go back to a one-team comp. But unfortunately, we never bothered to engage in a really open and honest conversation to try and deal with some of the fundamental problems. And so consequently, from that period of time, when it was a crisis point then, in May and June last year, where everyone discussed these things openly, but then in the same breath, they stated that they'd be good to go for 5 to 10 years. From there, we now find ourselves with no Mallee Footy League in 2023.
So if you can, just tell us what people are saying in your circles and what this is all going to look like now for your club.
So a lot has happened this week, as you would know. It's been reported across many regions, but significantly, Peak and Karoonda had their special general meetings, which was to basically form their amalgamation and also present their option to leave the Mallee Footy League and join the River Murray Association. So on Wednesday night, Peak had their meeting, and then Thursday night, Karoonda had theirs, and they both voted to do both of those things. And they weren't unanimous, but they were very high 90s in terms of the percent rate that were willing to make this move. So it was a really comprehensive decision by them, and they'd put a lot of effort into informing their members of the facts of the position of their club, and that's what ultimately led for them to make the decision. So, for instance, Karoonda, they'd been analysing their position for a long time, and they've come to the conclusion that sort of mid-season that they were really only doing it for 8 local senior players. They were spending a whole lot of money out of their community to only just be competitive and not play finals, essentially, and that they were unsure about the viability of, well, basically burnout in their volunteer bases as well. So it was a no-brainer for them to be deeply assessing their future. And in the end, they'd stated that one way or another they were leaving the Mallee competition. So, and then later this week, well, in addition to Peak and Karoonda doing what they've done, Murrayville had also sought an alternative or second option if the Mallee was not to go forward. And there was a bit of conjecture about how that's been reported in the media as well, because in their defence, they actually hadn't pulled the trigger to leave. They'd inquired and done the homework just in case that something was to happen, but they actually hadn't formally decided to join the Murray Valley football competition. So unfortunately that news was broke midweek and it wasn't quite factual.
There we go. Well, there's so much to digest. We had Nicole McMahon tell us, in a very passionate rant, I guess, if I can put it that way, there's so much more at play here than just sport happening on a weekend. So what is it exactly that, you're going to miss the most about the Mallee football and netball leagues? Yeah,
I do agree that it's been a wonderful lifestyle for BDT in the Mallee competition. There's no doubt about it. We've been there for 20 years and it's all basically most of us know, and it's going to be hard to transition out of that. But I guess if it was so important to all those communities, they would have been more engaged in the sustainability of that conversation. And it's really frustrating for us who, we were the first ones to notify that we were assessing our future. And we copped a lot of criticism for that. And I guess we were desperate to have some sort of really gritty conversation on how best can we maintain sport in our region and fundamentally in our own communities. And we tried very hard to work with all the other clubs on this, but we were roadblocked by the Mallee executive. And it's been a really frustrating conversation throughout the week to hear that the word shock used by the president of the league. This has been on his table, and he has effectively stonewalled the conversation to the point now where it's just disintegrated overnight, essentially. And it's a sad state of affairs.
Well, there's a lot going on here, Ben, and we'll have to keep prosecuting this. If we can try and finish on a positive note, I just want to get out of you, your personal highlights from the season, the final ever season of Mallee football, which we're going to have to get used to saying. And anything else that you want to say or address to anyone, Ben, the floor's yours.
Oh, there's no doubt about the competition was owned by Pinnaroo this year. The culmination of many years' work by their club and committee to get their team up to where it was, and a wonderful effort by the coach Heidi to put that outfit on the park, and they owned it from the start of the season to the end of it, and quite a resounding win for them with the premiership. So no doubt about it, they go out as the big highlight from the football aspect of things. But on that, I think a real tribute needs to be paid, and it's not just a highlight of this year, but to Lou Bougen, the secretary of the Mallee Footy League. He's been the heart and soul, effectively, and he's managed it for, I believe, 24 years. So we owe him a lifetime's work and a gold watch tribute, essentially, which we probably won't be able to do justice on the radio. But I feel for him in this sort of situation. He's done a wonderful, above and beyond what is required of an individual to fill a role like that. He's just been across every aspect of the Mallee Football League competition for a lifetime, essentially. So I'd like to pay homage to him, and on behalf of all of our constituents out in the Mallee, it's just the greatest thanks to some people like him and those that have volunteered their work, and to someone like Rodney Maynard, who's put a powerful work over a lifetime as well, not just into the senior competition, but he was a real role model for so many kids and so many teams for such a long time. So it'll be a tough moment for people like them, but we thank them and wish them all the best.
Ben Hooper from the Border Downs Tintinara Football Club speaking on what is still a developing situation. We'll have to check in with him again on the Flow Friday Sports Show in the next couple of weeks. Well, we're just getting started on the Flow Friday Sports Show this evening, so don't go anywhere. We've still got plenty to discuss, including reviews of the Wimmera football and netball. But up next, we're going to be hearing from the victorious coach from the Wimmera Netball League, and we'll be checking in with one of our regular correspondents here on the Flow Friday Sports Show, Scotty Stewart from Wimmera Football. Plenty to get through still. We'll see you on the other side of this.